One thing that I think is really interesting is that the Justice Department, when it released this, it did so with a statement, basically caveating the files, saying that there was lots of untrue or sensationalist claims about Donald Trump, which they haven't done before. It's sort of warning people before they read them, which is quite unusual.
The US Department of Justice has released another tranche of files relating to Jeffrey Epstein, the biggest release so far. There's around 30,000 pages of documents, video clips and photos, many with redactions. Harriet Alexander is a journalist based in New York, and she's with me now to discuss them. Hello, Harriet.
Hi, John. Hello.
So what's new in the files, Harriet, or is it even too soon to say?
Well, yes. I mean, it is rather too soon because, of course, it takes a lot of wading through these files to work out what's in them. We got the previous release on Friday, and we're still getting a sort of drip of information about those. One thing that I think is really interesting is that the Justice Department, when it released this, it did so with a statement, basically caveating the files, saying that there was lots of untrue or sensationalist claims about Donald Trump, which they haven't done before. It's sort of warning people before they read them, which is quite unusual. But yes, I mean, one of the key things is that there is an email from people in the Southern District of New York in the Justice Department to presumably Donald Trump's team, warning them that the president was actually on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet many times more than had been previously believed.
Yeah, you mentioned this, as you say, slightly strange statement by the Department of Justice, which is releasing the files and yet clearly putting out partisan opinion. But is there any way which this information which would appear, we can't be sure, but if the flight manifests and stuff, how can those sort of things be taken as being untrue? What's the argument there?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there basically is no argument, John. That I mean, the flight manifest is the flight manifest. One thing that was certainly untrue that they put out, they released what appeared to be a video of Epstein hanging himself in his cell. It was quite a bizarre video, and then they later clarified that actually that was something that they were forwarded that had been doing the rounds online. It was just a sort of AI type fake video, but that was released as part of the document. So, there's a lot of sort of scrambling to try and find out what things are. There is some redaction happening after the event as well. They even released the files for a few hours yesterday evening and then took them back offline and then released them again. So, it's not the most orderly process. And also, it's not being released in an orderly way. You just literally have to trawl through these tens of thousands of pages each time.
Yes, well, if we put all this together, you mentioned the chaos and also, as you say, something bizarre like to be releasing fake AI videos as part of this. And there's a sort of a phrase which has long been mentioned not only in MAGA circles, but as sort of a political tactic of, they call it flooding the zone. Could this be part of the analysis of what's going on here? That in order to try and make this as difficult for the true information to be sifted through as possible, is that might possibly be what's going on?
Yes, I think a lot of people do believe that. It's actually interesting that Bill Clinton, who featured heavily in the first release on Friday, his spokesperson is saying release all of this immediately, because he's saying, this is being done in a very calculated way, that you are getting Bill Clinton out there, so everybody's talking about that. Is that a way to sort of hide from other information that you don't necessarily want out there? I would also note that the timing is quite interesting. They were supposed to release it all on Friday, and yet, of course, they didn't. Obviously, as it gets closer and closer to Christmas, people are paying less attention to the news. So is that something to do with it as well? That's what a lot of people are suspicious of.
Well, then let's spool forwards then. And do you know how many of the files are left? Does anybody know what's left to be released? And is that the idea that potentially the holiday period would see more of this stuff? And what's the response from the US government, if there is one, or even from Trump?
Yes, I mean we've only so far had a fraction of what is actually out there. There's an awful lot more to come. Donald Trump was asked about this on Monday evening. He's down in Mar-a-Lago, his Florida resort, for Christmas. He was quite irritated about being asked about it yet again, because it was at a ceremony where he was announcing he wanted to rename some warships after himself. But he wanted to talk about the warships and not about Jeffrey Epstein. He says it's well known that I used to spend time with him, but he said everybody spent time with him, and that actually is becoming more and more true, isn't it? That's more and more apparent. Trump says, that I've done nothing wrong. I got rid of him. I ditched him in the mid-2000s because he was, quote, a creep. And it is certainly believed to be true that they weren't long-standing friends after the mid-2000s. There is some damaging information in there, of course, about Prince Andrew. There's an email from August 2001 to Ghislaine Maxwell, in which Andrew requests that she finds him some inappropriate friends. And she replies and she says, I could only find you appropriate friends. And he says, distraught.
Yes, well, it's astonishing how each tranche of files seems to create wave upon wave of drama and controversy on both sides of the Atlantic. Well, and as you say, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Donald Trump deny any wrongdoing. But thank you so much for your analysis of that, Harriet Alexander, a journalist based in New York.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers. And Bill Clinton was a friend of his, but everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership. But Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and that he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents. And there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was at a party, and you ruin the reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. We have $18 trillion coming into our country. They want to talk about Epstein, and the problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the head of Harvard. He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now, he was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way. But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there.